Thank you all for being here. Thank you for coming to Sonoma County. My name is Jeff Okrepkie, as Jennifer said. I am a fire survivor of the 2017 Tubbs fire. My family and I lost our rental in Coffey Park, a neighborhood in Santa Rosa. I helped start an organization called Coffey Strong, which implemented the block captain system in Sonoma County, along with some other areas. For other organizations, we all kind of did it at the same time. Um, and through that, I got to know some elected officials, city staff, and eventually was convinced, and Jennifer, and was convinced to run for city council. So that's I believe why Jennifer asked me to be here, is because I know a couple of different facets and I have a lived experience that is fairly relevant to the block captain system. Is everybody here familiar with the block captain system or know what it is? Can you raise your hand if you know what it is? Oh, awesome. That's great. All right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go forward and we're going to do some introductions. As was said, Brad's not here, so we'll just move past him because he's not that important. And we'll go to, he's a friend. We'll go to Darragh.
Hi,
What?
everyone. Darragh Danton.
Darragh, sorry.
That's all right. The GH throws everyone. You know, the Irish like to throw in a lot of letters. Anyway, yeah. Okay, so I am from the Palisades fire, the newest one, I guess. We lost our home of 25 years in Pacific Palisades, and I knew I needed to do something to help my neighbors. And we created, along with my amazing fellow members that are here, Team Palisades, which is the block captain system based after the fire program. Jen was at our first meeting. Thank you, Jen. She was there and she's been a supporter of us ever since. And we are so grateful to you and the entire team at After the Fire and to Department of Angels. Shout out to you guys. You are huge supporters of us and we are so grateful. And I think that was it, right?
Yep, that's great. Thank you. I had two jobs and one was to run a slideshow and I've already screwed it up. So we'll go back to Steve. And Steve, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Steve Rahmn. I lived in Coffey Park, bought our house 2 months before the fire. My wife and I, Michelle, moved in and thought we moved into a neighborhood that we were going to be there for the rest of our lives. And 2 months later, we started rebuilding our lives. Since then, I've started with Jeff as you know trying to figure out what to do. So Coffey Strong was a important role for me for my survivalness. Is that a word? And so I'm just here to share what we went through, and if you have any questions, here to answer. Oh, and Tubbs Fire 2017.
Thank you. And Patty.
Hi guys, my name's Patty Ratermann. I am a Katrina survivor. I am also a Eaton survivor. My partner and I lost our home in Altadena. Altadena was our fresh start after many years of chaos and our breath of fresh air. And now I'm here in your freshman class, so thank you for welcoming us. I'm also the co-founder of Postfire. I think one of our questions was like, how did we make it here, other than the obvious? I we very quickly after or during the fires had our blocks on group texts, and we're very connected to our neighbors. And I came back to my phone, and I think about 23 missed text messages later, and had been elected our block captain. And I now represent 2 zones, and, the ED of our organization, Altogether, is here that runs the block captain system in Altogether, and a few of our block captains as well, and, we're doing everything that we can to keep each other together and in community, so very excited to be here.
Thank you. And as you'll find, we are not nonprofit executives. We are not program managers. Uh, we are just average, everyday people that stepped up. So we're not real great with structure like we should be. So if this is kind of an open forum where if anyone wants to answer a question, feel free to. That's kind of who we are. And to that, let's move on. Steve, can you kind of expand on what Patty started about how do communities decide who's a block captain? How does that?
Sure. So, I mean, really, it's about getting involved. If you want to be involved, you'll be involved, and your capacity is what your involvement is. So, you might be a person that wants to get involved and can only have help one neighbor. That's great. You can help 20 neighbors. That's better. And so, when we started doing this, we didn't know what we were doing. We just divided everything up by location because it made sense. And then you start learning about, you know, who you communicate with, what do you have like-minded, whether it's insurance, whether it's septic, whether it's well. I mean, you could go on and on and on, but really um, it was a long process, it's rewarding. So, I know that for me, my wife and I had a hard time deciding what we were going to do at first, and it was really, sorry, it was really hard to make a choice. And once you make that choice, you're all in. And once you're all in, I can't stress enough the importance of community. And you keep hearing that today, but without our community, our recovery would be half of what it was. And it was just everybody just wanting to give something back. And it wasn't just for yourself, it was about giving back for your community.
Yeah, I mean, that's it speaks so. I mean, that's so much truth. Community, and we were talking about this earlier. How uh, we're not doing this for us. We're doing this for the entire community. That's the way I think that not only that, but helping others is helping me through my own trauma of losing my home and losing my community. And it's to be of service to others and to give those that don't have the voice. The 8-year old, we always say, like, it's the 8-year old to the 80-year old. We want to make sure that we're giving them a voice in the community. And yeah, I mean, like, so I'm like completely off the rails, but community is the most important thing.
And how, like I was joking before, that we're just average everyday Joes. I mean, I know with Steve and I and Coffee Strong, and I'm sure in your organizations, there's people from various backgrounds. The one I always like to joke about is one of the people that stepped up in our organization was somebody who uh, choreographed sword fights for plays for a living and written 2 books on the subject, right? Definitely not a nonprofit executive, definitely not somebody that's, a community organizer, but he was invaluable in some of our efforts. So how do you balance that informal structure of the community with the neighbor to neighbor relationships, with also forming an organization and the requirements that come with that?
I think that it's informal until it's formalized, right? Like a lot of us were trying to come together to see just who is interconnected enough. And I want to highlight something quickly. Katie started the day with an incredible keynote and really set the stage for vulnerability. And I think that with the last panel, especially, it opens the door for, I think, block captains and our vulnerability and how much that um I will speak for myself. We sort through mentally to try to make sure that we're showing up for our neighbors and also doing that correctly. Um, I interact with a lot of my fellow block captains, and we have imposter syndrome, right? Where I will talk to other captains that are like, I don't think I'm doing a good enough job. I'm not participating enough, or I don't know about the thing, or I didn't go to the event. And that's just the thing that all of our neighbors feel, whether you're a block captain or you're part of an organization. And so I think that the systems that really get built around it are all of us sitting together and coming together and being like, hey, I made this one, and so I'll give you my notes from this, and then you can pass it on to your neighbors. That sense of community, right? And I think what the block captain system is teaching us now in disaster response is also something that we can carry forward into communities that haven't faced a disaster yet, to make sure that we have, going back to Renee's presentation, those social ties and those bonding ties, to make sure that, like, as we are navigating through going on 9 months out now, we're not still looking for people. Because if you are new to an area, or if you there's a lot of elders on my block that don't have children, for example. And so I knew them because I walked my dog, but a lot of people don't know all those folks. I'm like, we're on propertysearch.com figure and like stalking people. Like you give a woman a name and a browser and she will find someone, but there's so much of that. And then I think that a lot of those leaders also come after essentially someone may have stepped up as the block captain. Like we have a lot of neighbors in our block that like will help me talk to my neighbors and are informally a co-captain or whatever those things are. So I think that like we have an infrastructure around us in Altadena and in the Palisades and I think that that tissue continues to get built and as we learn more, you know?
No, I also I just want to add that, we because I think it's you have to communicate to you know, so many different people, like you mentioned. There's people that you can, you can call, you have to call them on the phone. There's only people that want to have the texts. There's the emails. There's only, we have a Slack. There's the amount of ways that you have to, incorporate into how to reach these people. And also, like you said, whether or not they want to have that help. But you do have to try to reach out to them to make sure that they are okay because you want to make sure that they're getting this information and it's vetted and because it's really important. The resources, the information, it's overwhelming for those who are going through trauma, and you just want to make sure that they're getting that information and it's not overwhelming.
So as you reach out, how do you build trust? Because after these disasters, there is a lot of mistrust of government organizations, attorneys, anything else that comes into the community to say we're here to help, or so how do you, as block captains in your organizations, did you or are you building trust so that you can be validated?
I'll take that. Yeah, it's first being transparent. Like a lot of times we would meet with the city. We had as Jeff knows, we had the city, at least two representatives from the city at every one of our meetings, and we invited them. They may not didn't come at first because they were interested, then they didn't come, and then they saw that we actually were doing what we say and saying what we're doing. So if there was a question about septic and there was one person that needed an answer, we drilled into it to get that answer to give it to him, so that built a trust. Then that guy's like, hey, they gave me some good info, and then they told somebody, and then the next thing you know, I mean, tech right now is so fast. Like we were talking backstage that there's, we did everything with Excel and Word and in handwriting. Everybody's got like AI and crazy stuff that we didn't have, and so everything is very different. And so it's really about how do you make connection to the people in the neighborhood that don't have a neighborhood anymore. And that was the toughest thing for us, I think, is really trying to find everybody and then build that trust. And a lot of it was just come play. Let's have a barbecue. Let's have a bingo night. We used to have wine Wednesdays. Probably heard about that. Every Wednesday we'd go to a park and just complain. And it was great. You got drunk and complained. What else could you want?
WHINE.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Sorry. But yeah, so I mean, but back to your question about organization, I think we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. It was a bunch of people sitting at a table, and then next thing you know, we're a nonprofit writing grants, you know. So
And it's really fluid. Like it just seems like it's constantly just changing and also adapting to what's going on. I don't know if that's the same for you at Eaton.
I mean, I think so. The building trust is one of the hardest and also most satisfying things, like when someone that was a little bit harder to bring in for obvious reasons. I demographically don't look like the historic population. I don't represent Altadena in that way. And it is an incredible honor that my neighbors have trusted me with their stories, with their insurance policies, um, with the things that they're really concerned about. And so for that, it's an absolute honor. And I think that what I've experienced is it's a lot of a domino effect, right? One neighbor will interact with me and then another neighbor. Something I found really successful was I held office hours for many months on end, and so Mondays at 3 p.m., there was a Google link that anybody could jump into and come and ask me questions or be skeptical of who I was and ask me questions, and that was incredibly helpful. Um, I'll also give away my dog, Finn, did a lot of the work because she is a she was on the block and people might not recognize me because we don't look at each other when there's a dog present. And I'd be like, okay, she's like, one brown eye, one blue eye. And they'd be like, oh, I remember her. And so that was also really helpful and a really endearing part of that process.
I think same with me. Like people knew me from my dog. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One of the other ways that I've been able to, the trust factor is huge, but we've have weekly Zooms with my neighborhood. And it's really fantastic. Number one, to see everyone's faces. And I think that it has grown exponentially for my neighborhood. Oh, we have 20 neighborhoods in the Palisades. That's the way we broke down ours. I know you guys did zones, I think, for Coffee Park. So we have 20 neighborhoods, and I'm a neighborhood rep for Lower Marquez. Shout out Laura Marquez. And yeah, no, it's fantastic. And I do it is really a great way to share that information, and that's how you build trust.
I'd also love to add quickly when trust is built when you do the thing that you say that you're going to do. And so when the information that you deliver is something that actually helps that family member, that household recover and move the needle forward, trust is built. And it may take building blocks and them coming back to see like, okay, I'm going to try another thing and I'm going to see if this lands and take it to their insurance adjuster or take it to wherever they need to go. But those are really the things that, like, my neighbors will now call me when there's just a conundrum. And for me, I'm steeped in it because of the work that I now do on a day to day basis. But they now know that, like, if I pick up the phone and call Patty, I'm going to get at least an answer or she's going to give me to someone who can give me that answer, and I think that's the biggest way that also trust is built, Finn aside, and it's really that.
Awesome. All of you have touched on technology at some point, and we were talking backstage that where Palisades and Eaton have these capabilities, Steve and I in our fire feel like we were trying to organize in the industrial age. Like it's you guys have you all have done wonders with technology. How has it benefited you more than you thought? And at the same time, with access to technology, how do you combat misinformation and negativity?
I'll start. I'm biased. I come from a technology background, so I know the power of technology to be able to democratize information. I also know the power of technology to spread misinformation faster than good information spreads. And so what I think we saw a lot in our fires is, you know, the role of social media and how present social media is and how prevalent a video can become and a voice can become in that. And I think that's incredibly important to also know who those figures have been because they've done that work and continue to do that work across both fires. Um, I think that the thing that has concerned me, and I know that, I have deep trust in Adrian, so I this is not anything against AI. I know there are ethical ways to go about it, but, like, my concerns are really where, like, the nuance gets missed and people interact with AI and think that, like, I call him Jeepus, ChatGPT, is going it talks to you like a person, so it's just gonna that's the thing to rely on, and it actually gets people in really hot water more often than not. But then we have these tools like AI inventory that are so helpful and take that mental load off so much of the, like, having to handwrite and go through an Excel spreadsheet, and so we've been so fortunate that we have, like, walked into a no, I retract that statement. We have walked into a disaster, but we are fortunate to have these, like technology tools that can move those things forward. And I think it's really about like I sit with my neighbors and I'm like, okay, this is how you do this. Let's like get the photos together. Let's let AI do it. And then, we have tools that are coming online as time goes on that can really help us, and Postfire being one of them, which we're excited to share with you tomorrow. But it's about like, eliminating the mental load that we have for especially us organizers, as you were mentioning, going home and trying to get through our SBA loan application. We were fighting with our person this morning and still in it. And that part is really hard. So I think technology has the ability to like calm that down.
Great. Steve, we were talking also about our colleague Joshua and his work with the GIS. Can you kind of touch on what he did for our efforts?
Well, we didn't have what you're talking about. We were, I guess we didn't have that technology. We just reached out to who knows how to do it, right? So we had one guy that worked at the city of Santa Rosa who, and that's the thing about block captains. They come and go, and you shouldn't feel. I'm gonna keep going back to block captains because I know that's why we're here. But I mean, there's a part of it that was, guys, people would come and go, and sometimes they just got the information they needed, and they just needed that push to go down the hill, and that was great. This Josh, who worked for the city, we were able to commandeer him, and nights and weekends he would map the neighborhood. And sometimes we thought it was a great idea. Let's figure out how many people had the same houses. Remember that? It was like, okay, oh, we had the same floor plan. Okay, that helps us. Why does that help us? I don't know. So that we scrapped that idea. So there was constantly mapping, but that was the only mapping we really had.
Yeah, we also, I think, tried to collect some data on who had which carrier.
Yes.
And then to help with claims, we would compare like, oh, you and I had the same floor plan and you and I both have State Farm. Well, I'm getting offered this. What are you getting offered?
Right.
That you can then combat whatever the lowball offer was.
Right.
So
Let me tell you guys, for those of you that are not survivors, the insurance specific WhatsApp group chats are lit. It is wild in there. But we also get to share a ton of information and it's super helpful.
It's super helpful. I mean, I think that that's again back to technology. That's where we are obviously. I'm not saying ahead of you guys, but we are much we were
You are.
is very positive way of yeah. It's a very positive way of having to deal with it, and also all of the AI inventory tools. There's Bevel Made. Andrew has one as well. I mean, has been enormously helpful.
We have a newsletter.
No,
We have a
we have one
newsletter
there
by carrier pigeon that we used to drop off at everybody's
we
houses.
did print out some.
Yeah.
As weird as that is, we printed out some on
Yeah.
actual paper.
Printed paper
Yeah,
stuff is
right.
really helpful.
We have,
Really
if you go to
helpful, 100%.
coffeestrong.com, you can see 2 years worth of Facebooks from everything from zucchini fritter recipes to how to pick out a front door.
That's a great segue, as a matter of fact. What role do block captains play in long-term recovery?
Well, if anybody's doing anything Saturday, my wife's got a free community music event going on in our neighborhood for the community. But we do, I mean, we still do stuff. I mean, either everything from a music event in the local park to getting together for Wine Wednesday still, I mean, recovery, I think, is constant. And sometimes it's just like we call our event cultivating community, because sometimes it's just like checking in, checking in with your neighbors, same thing.
Yeah, one of the things that, we're trying to do as well in that, well, I mean, we're just in the beginning phases of our recovery, is, to really try to find, group rates, the best way, in our neighborhoods. We got a fencing, discount rate for the entire community. And that is something that is really helpful as the for the block captain system to utilize that, to reduce the amount for all of our neighbors, to get that, because it's as I don't know if you all know, we're all underinsured in LA. It's just the way it is, and we're trying to get everyone we can back home. That's the most important thing. So, group rates, events that we're doing. We have a healing walks. We have a senior lunch that we did because we want to make sure we're reaching everyone. I think the events are crucial. Just even our Zoom meetings that we have, it's really just about building community and, checking in. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, I really second block captains are such an integral part to community. It's like that person that's kind of leading the charge for those in-person events. And I think that community is the hope. I mean, we saw a quote earlier, Vince Lombardi, that hope is not a strategy, but it is still absolutely crucial to recovery in all aspects. And I think that, you know, growing up in New Orleans and like all of us being displaced for as long as we were, and there's lots of similarities that are to now, but I think what we really missed in certain aspects was this lack of community, and I think, being able to be in touch, and you guys had Excel spreadsheets. 2005, we were writing on stones. But it's we have the ability to stay so connected, whether it's FaceTime with a single mom that's next door, or it's driving up to make sure that Mary on my block feels like she's taken care of when ACOE is there and she doesn't know how to bully them. I'm there with donuts ready to bully them. And I think that that's like the integral part of block captains. It's like it's that connective tissue to also make sure that like I know your dog's name and I know where you are and I know that you can't make this Saturday's barbecue, but maybe next, and you have an RV and you're gonna go back to your lot and what that means. Like those are the small details that also humanize the experience. We've talked a lot about how we can feel exceptionally alone, even if we are going through it as a community. And block captains and community reinforcement help us to really be rooted in the neighbor to neighbor, shoulder to shoulder experience.
Yeah, and if I could add, I would say one thing to long-term recovery is important with this, and you never really know what form it takes. Whether it be advocacy for your community. I mean, we're still going through fire recovery efforts for streets and whatnot in our community. But I know one thing that Steve and I have experienced, and I don't know if the two of you have experienced it yet, but there's going to be a point where you're 2, 3 years down the line, and you go to the grocery store, and someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, you're so and so, right? You were part of that thing, right?" And you go, "Yeah, yeah, I was." And they go, "Yeah, you guys helped me so much." And this person never posted on social media. They never responded to an email. They never came to a meeting. They were a lurker in the truest of senses, but they're gathering all of the information that you're providing. And I think that's kind of that confirmation I think Steve and I and a few of our colleagues have received is that like, even if you're not getting that immediate feedback of like, "Oh, you're doing the great work and, you helped me." There's people out there that you don't know who you're helping. You're just doing your good work. So I think that's really important with block captains is it's not just the people you talk to. It's not just the people you see. There's a lot more you don't see than the people you interact with.
That's really good to know because sometimes we're just like crickets. He just like you put it out there and you're like, wow, is anyone hearing this? It's really, I mean, because you just want to make sure that you are reaching them. But it's good to know that. I'm hoping 2 years or 3 years at Gelson's, maybe that will happen.
It's also consistency, right? Like, if someone knows that they have a block captain that's sending them a newsletter or links or whatever those things are, that person is now more consistent than the systems that are supposed to be in place to protect you. So that's insurance, that's FEMA, that's SBA, that's all those things where you're like, pardon my French, getting dicked around on a daily basis. I know. I'm so sorry. Um,
Virgineers. Yeah.
and And that consistency, I think, is incredibly important for our neighbors. Again, being able to like pick up the phone or send the text message because people cycle through. You get a different adjuster. There's a different person at the I call it the DMV, but the recovery center. All of those things just cycle through constantly. And we know the community recovery is led hyper local by the community. And so just reminding people of that.
What is a block captain's role in beyond recovery, but in resiliency? Like after rebuild, what do you foresee or what have you experienced is the role of the block captain system in preparation or prevention of future disasters?
We actually are starting. There's a lot of standing homes just above my neighborhood, and we have, you know, started incorporating the Readier LA neighborhood emergency network with Red Cross. That's something that we're already foreseeing, that we know that we need to look at. Disasters are just keep happening, and we want to make sure that we're prepared. And having that system in place is also, another way of neighborhood watch. It's just another aspect of preparedness. And so we're already thinking about that, and we're going to start rolling it out pretty soon, for those that do have standing homes, because I do worry about them every single day. There's a lot of brush that hasn't been cleared.
I mean, for us, I mean, so post fire, I mean, we were a nonprofit. We were no longer a nonprofit. We had a mission that we wanted to meet, which was helping our neighbors get back in their homes. We felt like we accomplished that. I think we have about 12 empty lots or 14 empty lots now. Most of them are for sale for profit. So there's
Starting at around 1,400.
what's that?
Starting at around 14.
Starting around 1,400. And so now, I mean, really, we've got a lot of houses for sale now where we didn't before. So now it's the education of the people that live there now that want to know, but they don't really want to know, and you don't really want to talk about it, but it's a conversation that people want to. We do things like parades in the night on the Christmas parade. We do, like we said, we do events and stuff, and trying to get to those people and communicate with them. And it's kind of like still doing block captain work, but it's really just being a neighbor. It's really just knocking on the door and saying, hey, we're having an event. Why don't you come down? Like, I talk to every one of my neighbors now. I never used to. I mean, I did, but because I talk a lot, as you can tell. But now going to Trader Joe's, it's not 5 minutes, it's 20 minutes. Because you're in there, hey, how's it going? No, what's your dog Finn doing? That kind of stuff. So, I mean, I think we're still block captaining, so even though we're not.
Yeah, I think it's for us it was a very common refrain in America of I know who lives next door to me on both sides. I know who lives across the street. They're not my friends. I know their names, but I don't really know what they do. And then the fire happened and you're like trying to gather all this information. And even with the sales, like there was some worry that there would be like this pre-fire, post-fire divide of like, oh, you weren't here when the fire. Oh, okay. But that hasn't even happened. It's become this more of like, hey, we have this great community. Welcome to it. And welcome to be a part of this. Cause like other areas of our city that don't have that are not like this, right? They don't have the things that are going on.
I would say that block captains is maybe JGT's rebrand of what it's like to be in community, like truly be in community and know your neighbors, because a large part of Altadena, especially historically, has that. It exists. The fabric of community and being in touch with your neighbors is there. And I think that, like, 2025, when we have turnover of properties and the rest of it, it's a way to step back into really being where your feet are, and understanding that, like, just because that person's dog doesn't ever shut up and so you don't talk to them, maybe you should, and getting to know them more and more, and that way, as like things happen, because we are like running so fast towards more disasters. This is not going to be the last one that like we are all leaving our homes from, and that's awful. I've been through 3 presidentially declared disasters in 20 years, and I think that the block captain system just helps to reinforce the connective tissue that I've mentioned so many times. Sorry. That is really important to a community and a neighborhood. And that's what makes up a community and a neighborhood. And that's what makes up like a neighborhood at scale, instead of just like a place where you go to your house and then you leave and then you go back to your house.
All right. So as we talk about the long-term process of block captains, what does success look like? What is do block captains continue on, or is there a deadline or a target you want to reach and then you're done?
I don't think there's for us, we kind of envision we c- Tony, who could not be here today. Um, he calls it wartime. Like right now we're in wartime, and we feel like we'll probably roll our whole team Palisades the whole system into what we have a community council. We're just kind of live underneath them and work with them. But I think that to your point about community, I think that I mean, we're all so much richer having that community. And one thing I have to say is the block captain system is really a statement for the rest. It should be the way the rest of the country. Everyone should be so lucky as to have this system in place because it doesn't matter what religion, what and nothing, no political. There's nothing. It's apolitical. It's fantastic. We're all talking to each other. We're having really great conversations. We're talking to each other, and that is the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I mean, we keep saying community, 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 and it's so true. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, um, you when you sit there with yourself and your thoughts. I go back and I think about like year two and did we make the right choice? And oh my gosh, and what are we going to do? And at the time we had a 3-year-old and he's not in school and we switched him to school and then he's going to go to another school and oh my God, and then we had COVID and so you go through all these and really the only sustainability was the community and being able to like reach out and say, hey, like you might pick up my kid. Can you help me? Things like that. It's gratifying. And so everybody has extended family, and if you don't have a big extended family, your community is your family. And so, right now, I mean, I can't say that there's a better place to live in Sonoma County. Maybe in California. Sorry.
I love that.
So now to probably one of the most important questions, right? As people who are not getting paid to do this, as people who are going through their own traumas and their own experiences in recovery, trying to help those as others. How do you prevent burnout?
I don't know how I don't know. You just keep going. You keep moving forward. I mean, you're gonna have to take a break for yourself. What is that? You put your mask on yourself, then put it on your kid. Yeah, or maybe you put it on your kid and then you put it on yourself. I don't know, but I don't know. I just keep moving forward. I don't have an answer for that.
Keep on trucking.
Keep on trucking. Need a bumper sticker like that.
We kind of say like you can tap in, tap out. And also, I think it's a really good idea is to have co-captains. That's really important, if you can. If it's if you're lucky enough to get a co-captain or a co-team rep. Yeah, no, I look at we're just in it. I mean, I don't. I mean, it's day to day. I guess someone told me yesterday that it's the year and a half mark. I guess that's kind of like the hardest part. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, we all go through ebb and flow, right? I mean, so there's going to be times when you're have the energy and you don't. But I think as long as you just know that this is what you want to do and you enjoy it, I don't think it becomes work. It just becomes more, just part of your life.
Do you want to add?
No, I was just gonna say, I think it's yeah, it ebbs and flows, and I think you have situations where like you're in the middle of your rebuild and you're doing your electrical walkthrough, and someone calls you on something that you've put out in your various methods numerous times, and you're like, Jesus, like and you've got your own thing going on, and everything comes to a boiling point. I think the only way to really avoid it for me is being radically honest with those that are in the situation with you. Like, hey, we have this program or we have this project we want to take on. Can you do it? And it's like, oh God, no. Like I cannot handle that. And it's better, I think, in our situations to say I can't do that. Can someone else do it? Than to try to take it on and have it fall apart for everybody else.
That's a learning curve, though, especially coming right out of a disaster. I didn't I didn't come from a family where like saying, "Hey, something I need a break," or "I can't handle that," or any of those things was like a welcome thing. And and so I'm not necessarily religious, but I have a spiritual practice, and being of service is how I really make it through things, which can be at the detriment of my health and the health of my relationship and the health of my relationship with my friends. And I think that I don't want to put a bow on it and say that like it's not for me, it's not necessarily not work because it's part of your life. It's part of my life and it is an immense amount of work. And I think that the more that we can have grace for our other block captains, the more we can have grace for people that are leading and going through it. and the more radically honest that we can be and not feel guilt about. That's a big thing. Like if I can't get to Ian's house, but I got to Wendy's, like, and those things is really like we are human beings. We are not humans doing like that. We have to be able to say that. And I think that we also need to have a break. Like the organizers for our block captain system reinforce how important it is that we need to take care of ourselves. And we'll send an email being like, what is it that you did? And like I have to be able to say, I found a new ceramic studio and I promise I'm going. And it's little things like that. Um but I would also say that being able to be honest about what's going on with your mental health, because I think we talk a lot about resilience, we talk a lot about bouncing back, we talk a lot about pushing forward because we have to, we have no choice. Radical honesty around our mental health, because that's not something I'm hearing us talk about other than like, go find support. And that's not necessarily fair for people that are carrying this and their own recovery. And like for me, it took me 7 months to confront what I was personally going through within my own mental health that was debilitating. And I was fully masking and fully trying to be a part of the world and participate with my partner running an organization and in my block captain and 7 months of that without my therapist being like, "You got PTSD, babe. Like, it's okay." And being able to really radically work through that. And so having grace for other people that we know are going through that and not trying to ever say that it's like, "Oh, it's gonna be all right. You're gonna get through it. It gets better." It does. And, you know.
I think grace is important, so important. That's
Well, we're running short on time. So as we wrap this up, thank you all for being here and participating in this awesome organization's summit. The work here is crucial. I can tell you from now 8 years of experience traveling this country, doing this kind of work, everything all of you do and everything all of you have talked about with Block Captains, you'll all be traveling with us soon, I'm sure. Unfortunately, but unfortunately, because that means there's another fire, not unfortunately because it's you. But um, thank you all for being a part of this. This has been great. I'm going to plug this. You are 20 to 25 minutes away from the ground zero of the Tubbs fire and the block captain system coming up. Steve and I both still live in Coffey Park. There is an event on Saturday. If any of you from out of town want to come to Coffey Park and see what resiliency and recovery looks like 8 years later, please do so. Happy to. We will show you probably the third most interesting wall in the world, um, behind the behind the Great Wall and the Berlin Wall. Um, Good choices. So, but thank you all very much. Please give it up for these wonderful panelists.